Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel where the gnomes live. This is Sharon Oyella, and today I'm going to show you how I made this little paper towel holder. So the other day I uploaded a video tutorial for how to make my kitchen cupboards. So I uploaded a tutorial for these cupboards here, and I had attached to the wall a paper towel holder. And a bunch of you had noticed that paper towel holder and asked if I made it. I did not. This is a store-bought piece, and it was gifted to me, so I don't even know where it came from. It was gifted to me a few years ago, actually. So it got me looking at it, and then I realized, you know what, I could make one. So that's what we're going to do today. I'm going to show you how to make this piece right here. With the same tutorial, you could turn it into a little shelf. And you can paint them a variety of different colors. So these actually look like real wood, but they're not wood at all. I made the wood out of an empty cereal box. So you're going to need a cereal box or a cracker box would work, tacky glue, a pair of scissors, a ruler, X-Acto knife, and I also used a brayer, but you can use a rolling pin or a jar, anything that you can roll over the cardboard with once you get it all glued together. And then we're also going to need our paint, and for this one here I used burnt umber, and then I highlighted it with a soft suede. And when I made this one right here, I actually used a little stick. You can also use a toothpick to stick the roll on, and that gets pushed right through both sides. But at the end of the video I realized didn't have to do that step at all. You can leave that step out altogether and just make it look like you have a stick in there. So that's just rolled up paper towel, and then I glued it in place, and on the ends I just dotted in a little bit of paint. So you can skip that step altogether, or you can add it. It's up to you. So we're going to start off first preparing our cereal box. So let's do that. So grab your cereal box, some scissors, and let's get started. Now I'm going to cut this down into 3 pieces. Now I'm going to glue all 3 pieces together. So the glue has to go over the entire surface. So I'm just going to spread this out. You don't want any space without glue. It'll just make your life easier later. And try to keep glue from getting on the outside, because we want to put books on top of this, and we don't want to glue it to any surface. And now I'm going to glue this side. And I'll glue that colored side and this colored side together. So that leaves me plain on both sides. If you have a brayer or a bottle or a rolling pin, it'll be helpful to roll over it now. Okay, I'm going to set it under books. Before I do that, I'm just going to tape the ends just to keep it from slipping. Okay, and I'm going to set my big book on there, and I'm going to leave that for about 20 to 30 minutes. It's been about 30 minutes, and I believe it's dry enough to work with. I could leave it a little bit longer, but I think it's okay. We'll just get started here. I'm just going to cut straight lines. I'm going to cut all the edges into straight lines. I'm going to use my cutting mat to help me, using a straight line on the mat. So there's my beautiful little chunk to work with, and you can see the edges are all beautifully glued together. That's what I wanted. And if you find later on they start coming up at all you have to do is just run a little bit of glue along the edge and just let it dry. It'll be fine. So now we can cut our pieces, and it's made up out of 4 pieces like this, and a toothpick, of course. I'm going to give you the measurements in centimeters because we can get a more accurate number doing it that way. And first we're going to cut this piece right here, and it's 3.5 by 3 centimeters. So let's do the larger number first. 3.5. 3.5. So 3.5 is this width right here. So now I want to cut 3. So to get this shape up here, this up here, all I did was just find the middle, and I just guesstimated on the height. I would say it's right about there. And then make another mark right about here. And an even mark on this side here, even with this mark. You can use your ruler if you wanted to. And make sure, is that the middle? I think right here is the middle. Yeah, I almost messed that up there. And now I'll just draw a line from point to point. And I can cut it with my scissors or my X-Acto knife. And you could play around with that shape. You don't have to do exactly what I'm doing here. And if you have sandpaper, you can also use sandpaper to kind of round out the corners if you want to. So that's the main piece cut. Now we're going to cut the shelf for the top here. Now you can do it a couple different ways. You can cut it to fit straight across from edge to edge of this piece here, or we can cut it to fit on the inside of these pieces here. It's totally up to you. I'm going to do the inside, but I'm still going to cut the same width going across. So let's cut the shelf at 1 centimeter wide, and I'm going to cut it 3.5 centimeters long. So just cut it the exact same width as your back piece, set it aside, and we'll go on to make the side pieces, and then I'll show you how to cut this one down to fit perfectly inside the side pieces if you plan to do it that way. Okay, now we're going to cut our side pieces, and these get tapered down with our scissors, the top and bottom corner, and they're a little bit less than 1.5 centimeters wide, and the length is totally up to you. A little bit less than 1.5 centimeters. I'm not going to worry about it too much because, like I said, I'm going to be tapering this down with my scissors. So there's 1.5 there. I'm just going to count back 2 millimeters. And then this side here. And now I'll cut across that line. I'll make another piece here. And the side pieces can actually be as long as you want them to be. I'll show you what I mean in a second. So there's my side pieces started. I'm going to be cutting those again in a second. So my shelf, I can do it so it goes from side to side, edge to edge I mean, on my back piece, and then put this underneath. Or you can have it sitting on the inside, and then the side pieces go on the outside. So if you want to cut your shelf to fit on the inside, then what we need to do is put 2 side pieces together, keeping those side by side, and now I'll just use my pen. So now I have enough space on each side of that shelf for my side pieces. So my side pieces can be as long as I want them to be. They can go from corner to corner. Let's do that. Let's do it corner to corner. Now I'm going to round out the top and bottom of the side pieces so they have a little bit of a nicer shape to them. And when you're doing this, you can do any design that you want. You don't have to do exactly what I'm doing. I'm just doing your basic shapes just to get you through this tutorial, and then you can play around with it and make it your own. And at the same time, I'm going to take a little tiny bit off the width when I go around with my scissors. So that's how mine is going to go. So now we're going to do the paper towel holder part, this part in here. And we have to do that part before we do anything else to it. So let's get our toothpick. Where'd mine go? I have my paper towel here. I'm just going to break it down into a easier size to work with. I want to cut a strip of the paper towel. So I'm going to fold it over a couple times first and make sure that this line is nice and even. Now we can cut a width that will fit inside here, and remember to take into account the side pieces as well. So I'm going to cut this down to about there. And I think that's a good width right there. If it's not, I can always trim it after I get it rolled up. Okay, so now I'm going to roll it around the toothpick, and remember, don't cut the toothpick yet. You want to have it nice and long. And if you want it to spin, like this one, the store-bought one, it spins. If you don't care if it spins or not, you can roll it tighter. So it's just whatever your personal preference is. So I want the roll to hang off just a little bit like that. So I'm going to put a dab of glue, not on the end, just on the inside of the end. To make my life a lot easier, I am going to put a little bit of paint on one end of this stick, just on the very tip of the end, right here. Then I'm going to place this on my back piece. Okay, and now I'm going to put my side piece there, right on the, so it lines up, and now I'll just dab this here. And that's where I need to put the hole. And I'll use that as a template for the other side as well. Popping in with an edit, reminding you that you don't need to put that stick in there. If you don't want to, you can skip that step altogether. So if you're deciding on not using this stick, then don't bother putting those little holes in the side pieces. So I'm going to put the hole in this one first, and I'm going to go from the inside to the outside. And by the inside, I mean when it's glued on, it's going to be on the inside here. It just makes it easier when you push the stick through this part, that you have the hole being pushed through from the inside to the outside. It just makes it easier for yourself. I'm just going to use this so I don't push the pin right through my fingers. So this hole, you want it to just be snug enough to hold that stick inside. So too small is better if it's going to be anything. You don't want it to be too large, of course. And I already know, because I've done, this is the second one I've made now, that the eye of this needle is a good size for the stick that I'm using. So I'm going to use this as my template, so that's how they're going to go on. The insides are facing each other. I'm just going to mark a hole here now. And there we go. We can go from the inside to the outside again. I'm going to just trim it up just a little bit, make it easier for myself pushing it in there. Again, don't cut that down yet. We want to attach it first, and then we'll worry about cutting it down to size. But before we glue anything in place, now we're going to paint our pieces. And I'm using burnt umber. I'm going to do 2 coats of burnt umber. Make sure to get the sides as well. My second coat is dry. Now I'm going to just lightly dry brush it with a soft suede, just to give it a little bit of texture and lighten it up a little bit. And I'll do all the pieces, shelf and side pieces as well. On my original piece that I made yesterday, I painted on little tiny mushrooms, And you can do the same. You don't have to do this, guys. This is totally up to you. I'm going to use red and cream. Yesterday I painted them on after I had already glued everything together. So I think doing it before is a little bit easier. I'll start with the middle one first. And using the tip of a pencil is just easier to get the paint where you want it instead of using a paintbrush. On these tiny little pieces anyway. And now I'll do the stems. It's just dots, really, that's all it is, not any kind of fantastic drawing or anything. Okay, and I also did some green here for grass, and I kind of messed that up yesterday. I'll see if I can do it again, but I'm going to let that dry first. In fact, I'm going to set it underneath my fan, just let that dry, and then I'll work on it a little bit more. So the green I used yesterday was dark, so I'm going to try a lighter one here and see if this helps. And I'm just going to just put little blades, just barely touch here. When I put the dots on, I have to kind of push the pin into the wood so it'll grab that paint. Now we can put it all together, and I want the paper part to be rolled on the outside, so just going to remember that when I put this on here. You might have to reopen that hole if you got paint in there. Just push a pin through. You just want to make sure that they're spaced perfectly. And we'll go edge to edge, and these will. So I'm going to go ahead and glue those in place. See, it's helpful with that toothpick too long right now. Oh, that looks so pretty already. Okay, and now I'm going to put my other piece in here. Just want to make sure that everything's going to fit nice. Oh yeah. That's awesome. Okay, I'll glue. Way too much there. Just going to get that excess glue off. Make sure all your lines are nice and straight, nothing's too wonky. I like wonky, but when you're doing little things like this, it's better not to have the shelf all wonky looking. You want it a nice and straight looking shelf. So I think that looks good right about there. So what I'll do now is I'll just let this glue set. I'll put my fan on it, and then we'll come back and I'll show you how I finish up the toothpick. I have to say, that is so cute. I am in love with this little thing. And I'll start it off with a cereal box and a little bit of paint. Okay, I'm going to snip off the end of this now. And I like that little button look on the end. That looks actually pretty cute. So I'm just going to dip this in here, give it a little bit of that paint, and then just touch it up. That's all that has to be done. Alright my friends, that brings us to the end of this video tutorial. Hope you had fun. Hope you got yourself a little paper towel holder made, or maybe you made a little shelf. If you did make either one of those pieces, I'd sure love to see it. You can post pictures on my Facebook page, Where the Gnomes Live. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you super soon.